The border is closed for business thanks to Trump. This is a massive shift. This is what we all voted for. This is Trump's biggest mandate. And among the far-reaching influences that it has is in freaking out Dana Bash on CNN. Welcome to the Doug TenNapel channel. Here's Tom Homan, our border czar, our man, our hero on CNN.
And so what is happening as we speak is limited to those with criminal records?
That's the target of this operation. But like I said many times, in places like sanctuary cities where we can't arrest a bad person in the jail, we would like to have access to the jail to arrest a criminal alien in the safety and security of a county jail, which is safer for the community, safer for the officers, safer for the alien. But when you release a public safety threat out of a sanctuary jail and won't give us access to him, that means we got to go to the neighborhood and find him. And we will find him. But when we find him, he may be with others. Others that don't have a criminal conviction but are in the country illegally, they will be arrested too. Because we're not going to strike, and this is the difference between the last administration and this administration. ICE is going to enforce the immigration law. There's nothing in the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, says you got to be convicted of a serious crime in order to be removed from this country. So there's going to be more collateral arrests in sanctuary cities because they forced us to go in the community and find the guy we're looking for.
Let me just make sure that I understand what you're saying, because at first you said that the first targets are those with criminal records, but you are also saying that those who are undocumented in the U.S., also who don't have criminal records, people who are working in their communities, maybe even have spouses who are American citizens, they could be swept up with ICE today as well?
What I'm telling you is when we go find our priority target, which is a criminal alien, if he's with others in the United States illegally, we're going to take enforcement action against him. We're going to enforce the immigration law.
That's all. It's not that hard. We have a law. Now, Dana Bash wants Tom Homan and the illegals to break the law, to defy our system of government. Dana Bash at CNN is organizing a rebellion against the law. She's trying to encourage them to break it. Instead of Tom Homan is saying, look, I'm going to enforce the immigration law. If they're illegal, they go. They're not immigrants, by the way. An immigrant is people like my grandparents who came over on a boat and legally immigrated. They're illegal immigrants. You can actually drop the word immigrant off. They're illegal. It's against the law. And then CNN will only call them immigrants and remove the illegal part because they're anti-law. CNN is in opposition to the law. Just a point of clarity.
What happens then? So the ICE officers gets an individual or a set of individuals and apprehends them. What next? What do these ICE officers do with them? Because in some cases, and you know this far better than I, they haven't been deported in the past because their country of origin won't take them.
Well, what happens after arrest? They're taken to an ICE office and they're processed and put in detention. While they're in detention, ICE officers work on travel documents. The host country sends travel documents saying, yeah, this is our citizen, this is our national. Then we make flight arrangements. So they could be in detention from a few days for a few weeks until that removal is made happen.
What if the host country doesn't want them, as has happened in the recent past?
We have various plans. We have various plans. Other countries are willing to take them. We have third safe country removals. So that's something we're working through. But I think you're going to see less of the recalcitrant countries. Countries won't take their citizens back under this president, because this president has vowed that these countries will take them back. So I'll leave that up to the White House, but there will be negotiations with those countries who are pushing back on recalcitrancy, and they will be removed.
They are going to take them long term. Trump already announced a massive tariff on Mexico. So Mexico is going to have to be compliant or face a 25% tariff to a point that I can't remember what the company was. They make washing machines in Mexico. Was it Samsung? They've announced that they're looking at opening up a manufacturing facility here in North Carolina or South Carolina because that tariff, that 25%, it gouges into their profit margin too much. So massive changes happen when you enforce the law. And what'll happen is Venezuela, all these other countries that receive aid or other benefits from us, you just cut them off until they comply with taking back their illegals. So Dana Bash, liberals, strangely, they're supposed to be all these creative people. They're amazing. You know, they're all emotional and creative. Amazing how all their creativity drains out of their head when they have to consider going, but you can't, what if their home country doesn't take them back? And Tom Homan, because he's conservative and creative, says, oh, we'll work around it. We'll make them take them. There's ways. It's like let the negotiations start. So I like the can-do spirit of Tom Homan on immigration, and we should ignore Dana Bash's can-don't. That thinking is gone on immigration. Here's Jim Jordan.
Mr. Newman, did the Biden administration improve the immigration system and border security?
I think the stats show no. I mean, we've got a
That whole conversation just took place, sounded like a bunch of nonsense to me.
Yeah, same.
Certainly 77 million Americans don't believe what they just heard from Mr. Raskin and the Democrat witness. Ms. Vaughn, did the Biden administration improve the immigration system and border security?
No, the Biden administration dismantled the controls, guardrails, limits, and turned programs into purposes for which they were never
Every
intended.
community on the border knows they did it. Yeah, we just had a 5-minute conversation. Oh, well, things are just wonderful. Joe Biden was the greatest. Mr. Fabricatore, you've been out on the front lines. You've dealt with this. Did the Biden administration improve the immigration system and border security?
No, we have more illegal alien criminals on the street today because of the Biden administration.
Yeah, they're trying.
Flat out, the criminals, the murders, the thefts, including stealing American jobs, frankly. They never mention that. They steal American jobs, all because of the Biden administration. We just don't know why they did it. There's going to be a conversation here coming up with Jim Jordan where they're trying to figure out why. Was it because Democrats wanted votes? Is it because they're Marxists that just don't believe in borders philosophically? Why? Or do you just hate America? Do you just hate Americans enough that you think we should be punished? Obama always talked about America having too much of an unfair advantage, and he felt like he was trying to bring back balance between our country and other countries. That is, hobble our country to help other countries as if we had unfairly gotten what we got.
They say, don't believe your lying eyes. Of course we know it's gotten worse. Earlier, Mr. Newman, I think you said the Biden administration invited the crisis. I think you're being nice when you use the word invited. I think they intentionally, deliberately, what's my opening statement, willfully created the crisis. And I want to know, why would they do that? Why would an administration deliberately create the chaos we have seen? Upwards of 10 million people coming in the country. It's interesting, these border communities, that's been the biggest change in voting Democrat to voting Republican has taken place in those communities because they've felt it firsthand. We were in Yuma, Mr. Biggs brought this up. We were in Yuma, Arizona. The cost to the education system, the healthcare system, the public services in those communities, unbelievable. So why would they intentionally? Why would they do this? That's what I've been trying to figure out. Why would an administration say we're going to deliberately create the chaos that 77 million Americans, I think all Americans know, has taken place over the last 4 years?
I'm going to give you guys a theory. I think it's just that the Democrats thought it would help them win. They opened up the border thinking we're going to make them into citizens and have them vote. Okay, that's a huge benefit to Democrats if they can get more welfare recipients in. If I had to be as jaded as possible and take a guess at what would benefit the Democrats the most, I believe that was it. I don't believe that they care about refugees. I don't believe that they care about people suffering in other countries. I don't believe that they even want to help illegals. I believe that they see it as transactional, that they thought they would win a future election if it happened. And the biggest change is they thought they would get away with it because they thought media would hold and defend them, that they didn't think it was too big of a lift to cover up what's going on the border. That's why you have MSNBC, CNN, they were all still defending the Biden administration and Mayorkas lying and Karine Jean-Pierre lying, saying the border's secure. What Democrats couldn't predict in their jadedness, because this became an error, of course, what they couldn't predict is that media would collapse. What no one could imagine is that Elon Musk would buy X for $42 billion, which would assume that he would lose all that money, that it would go bankrupt. That's what they thought he would do. They thought he would take that. They could not imagine that a billionaire would not care about profits and would love free speech more. That's what broke the media. Once the media was broken, free speech and free opinion was able to rule online. And suddenly, the border, the voices of people against what the Democrats were doing, was able to swell, reach a majority opinion, and then have it come out in the vote. That's my theory of what backfired on the Democrats. There were things where the Democrats overplayed a weak hand. They thought they were going to get away with it. And then the future ended up going out very different than they thought it would. They thought they would control the narrative of the future, and that's where they were wrong.
I can't pretend to know the motive of the administration, but what
I'm asking you to hazard a guess as an expert in this area.
looking at what they've done and looking at the policies, what's very clear is that there's been an intentional desire to get as many people into the country as possible and keep them here.
Ms. Vaughn, can you take a run at that question? Why would they do it? I think all kinds of Americans ask that question. Why would our government do this to our nation?
Because Democrats hate American culture. They don't think it's legit. They think that anyone from any other culture is exactly as good or bad as an American culture. They think all cultures are interchangeable. Multiculturalism, not American exceptionalism.
Because they don't want any limits on immigration, and because no one could stop them.
Mr. Fabricatore?
There was a definite open border agenda at the last 4 years, and that is exactly the way that I see it.
You think there's, again, hazard a guess at the motivation. What do you think the motivation is?
You know, it's hard to guess at allowing so many illegal aliens to enter into the United States. It's something that when you actually look at it and you look at the numbers, it's unfathomable to even think that that many people were allowed. The gotaways, the 2 million gotaways that were allowed in this country, that we have no idea who they are. It's to me, I have no idea why they would allow that to happen.
I have another idea. I have more ideas than all these people. How can I have this many ideas? And I'm an idiot. I got another idea. Democrats, deep in their political philosophy, is pro-slavery. It goes all the way back. It's an atheistic pragmatism, ends justify any means, is their philosophy. They believe in having a permanent lower class brown people, unga bunga, to mow their lawns, pick their fruit, do the menial jobs that they don't want to do. Perhaps even reproducing children. Like the Democrat philosophy, it is so pagan and so satanic that they just go, yeah, let's just flood the zone with millions of little unga bungas, Jawas. You know, they're like Jawas from Star Wars, these little junk collectors that they'll only pick fruit, they'll only work at the fryer at McDonald's, they'll only do our yard work, they'll only dig trenches. They never ever talk about them saying they're going to write great AI code. They'd never speak about illegals in that way. They might even let them be a grunt and join our military. Yeah, throw them on the front lines in our military. That's what a good Jawa slave state, Hispanic unga bunga would do. It really is. I think it's a reflection of their own kind of elite, white, upper class philosophy worked out in action. They just see it's okay to have these people in the shadows. They don't have to vote. They don't have to pay taxes, but they have to come here and do work so we don't have to lift a finger. That's another philosophy I have on this thing. I could be wrong. I'm just thinking out loud, but it certainly matches up with the events that have happened.
I don't get it either, particularly when you think about what happens to kids on this journey when they come to the country, what happens to women, the terrible things that take. I don't get it. And for them to try to say it was wonderful and it was an improvement, I don't get that either, because nobody believes that. I think earlier the rank.
Yeah, and Jim, you also can't take the Democrats serious when they say they want to help women and children. They don't. They despise them. just because they're feminists. The feminists are the most anti-woman people in the world. And Jim Jordan's going like, I just can't imagine that. Everyone knows Democrat hate women, and especially children. They think children are like a huge, ugly, disgusting burden. They're like, give me my little yap dog. Don't burden me with the children. That keeps me from being selfish.
Ranking member said the asylum system was overwhelmed during the Biden administration. Why was it overwhelmed? Because they just opened everything up. No wall, no way, remain in Mexico. And when you get here, as you pointed out in your testimony, Mr. Fabricatore, you won't be detained, you'll be released. Now, what do we have to do to fix it? Mr. Fabricatore, the guy who's on the front lines, what do we have to do to fix it?
Number one, we need to make sure that we're giving the money to, especially enforcement removal operations, to go out and arrest, detain, and remove illegal aliens. That's the bottom line of what we have to do. We have to say, this is a situation that we have. We need to put money toward this so that we can be effective.
Once you start repatriating, once you start removing individuals who came here illegally, that's going to send a message. That's going to create
Yes.
an incentive I think in the right way. Because right now all the incentives are the wrong way.
Yes.
No wall, no wait, and you won't be detained. Everyone comes. So you got to change those incentives. That will start to do that.
It absolutely will. Letting the men and women know of ICE, of ERO, that they have your backing and they can go out on the street and actually enforce the immigration law. That's all that they're asking to do. That's what President Trump wants to do.
Yep.
He wants to make sure that we go out and the immigration law is actually enforced.
15 seconds, Mr.
Look, they've not been allowed to enforce the law. Like I said, these Democrats, they're anti-democracy, anti-republic, anti-law. They do not care what the laws are. And all these guys wanted was to be able to enforce the law. Like I said, CNN and Dana Bash, they're Democrats. They are anti-rule of law. They want illegal aliens to disobey the law. By the way, just last night, Huntington Beach, California announced it's removing its sanctuary city status. They said, we're no longer going to defy the government law, the presidential mandate. We're no longer going to be lawbreakers and harbor illegals as a sanctuary city. So there's some real cultural turns on this topic.
Mr. Newman, I'll give you the last 15.
Yeah, but it's you have to fund the resources for ICE to get the job done. You have to show to people in this country illegally that you could be caught and you could be sent home.
Well, this committee is committed to helping the administration have the resources to enforce the law.
And guess what? They're already self-deporting. You know, not all illegals are evil. Most of them are very good. Oh, on another note, you know, Trump is militarizing the border. There's already noticed that he is sending the military down to the border. They've also opened up this cool hotline to report illegals. Okay, I'm just going to show you this graphic before I play the movie because this is really funny. This is, they're saying like, oh, the ghetto's coming out to rat out the illegals, which I think is awesome. This is breaking ICE allegedly offering $750 per illegal immigrant that you turn in through their tip form. And then there's a ICE hotline down below. I have not checked that out to see if that's confirmed, guys, but I wanted you to see this lady. I know, here's where all the illegals are. She's giving them a few locations.
ICE, they over there on Chambly and Buford. They always be at the farmers market over there on the south side at the big farmers market. Yeah, but Chambly, that's little Mexico, Chambly, Buford side, all that right there. Oh, they always be at the gas stations too. All the gas stations. QT, they be at the QT when you get off on is that Turner Hill, the one that's over there by the Six Flags? What exit is that? All the Mexicans be outside.
What's over by that Six Flag? I love her. She only has one eyelash. That's a pretty cool fashion statement too. Okay, and next up we have CNN refusing to learn anything. They're like, duh. What happened to the people that were polling on illegal immigration? The numbers are massively changing. Watch this.
Deport all immigrants here illegally. I will note the ABC News poll asked about undocumented immigrants. So we have slightly different questions, but these were all taken within the last month. And there's real uniformity here. That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deport all immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans, in fact, when they're asked this blunt question, which I believe gets at the underlying feelings, do in fact want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
So if
Duh, you're always the last to know, CNN. Duh, why? Duh.
they say yes today-ish, how has that changed over time?
Yeah, this is where I think you get very interesting. And so we'll take a look at that ABC News question in particular, because you can really see that there's been a massive shift from when Trump was first getting into office 8 years ago, right? Deport all undocumented.
And this one is great. I'm not going to play the rest of this clip because we're running out of time, but basically he's going, duh, why was there a change, in people wanting to deport illegals? 2015, 2016, it was at its low under Trump's first term, only 36%. And now it's 56%. What's the 20% swing? CNN will never say this. What changed those numbers? From 36% to 56%? How about 4 years of Joe Biden's open border? Dude, we don't know why would it was like magic. Why? They don't ask the question and they don't offer that. They never conclude, oh, Biden's 4 years and Laken Riley being killed. Remember back in 2016 when Trump goes, there's some bad dudes coming over here and they're criminals. They're like, how can you be so racist to say that? And then all the crimes started happening across the board. And people watched an open border going, what do you mean 11 million people came over here in 4 years? And suddenly when you say 56%, say deport, that's not even saying I'm against illegal immigration. That's saying deport. That's do something draconian about it. Take the people out of their homes and jobs and send them back home. That's 56%. It's Joe Biden's 4 years. He gave Trump the victory. We had to go through the last 4 years of persecution and imbecility and illegal law breaking so that America could reform. And God does that sometimes. Sometimes the sin is allowed to flourish and increase so that it can expose everyone and bring them to repentance and turn their hearts. I believe in some mini way that's what happened to America. Hope you guys like this video. If you do, you can watch another or you can subscribe or just hang out in the comments. Let each other know that you're there. God bless you and God bless the USA. I'm Doug in exile.